straight into the roof of the net. Nice one. Straight down the middle. So a good performance from both teams here today.
All right, joining me today is someone very, very special. He's a captain, he's a leader, continues to be so for IPL franchises and other leagues in the world, was a captain of his national squad, and really still a leader among men. Faf Du Plessis joining me in today on Firstpost. It's so, I'm very privileged to be speaking to you. Thank you so much, Faf, for taking some time out.
Oh, thank you. It's good to spend time with you again. It's been a while, eh?
Yes, it's been a while. It's been a long while. But speaking about the last few weeks, you've had a very busy last few weeks and months as well, of course, with the health, as well as a very exciting weekend at the Formula One racetracks. How has the last few weeks been for you, Faf?
Yeah, the last 3 months has been, obviously I had an operation on my arm, which was a bad tennis elbow that I played with for about 2 years. So it got just got too painful to keep playing with it. So did the operation. So just been in recovery. It's a tricky one because it's quite a slow recovery. There's like for 2 months you can't do much, and then you slowly start putting some weight through it again. Obviously a lot of rehab, a lot of physio. So now I'm at that point where it's still a bit sore, but the doctors feel like it's good to put some sort of load through it. T10 is not a lot of cricket balls, but obviously you're trying to hit the ball quite hard. So I'm using this a little bit just to get back into the swing of things, and just gauge on how my arm's feeling. More than anything else, I think that's the priority now. Leading up to the SA League in January, with the Joburg Super Kings, and then obviously after that it will be the IPL. So this is just to see if the arm just gets some mileage through the arm again.
Yes, a lot of wishes for you there, but a bit about spending time at the racetracks, at Formula One. So much of crossover, a lot of cricketers we saw there, probably more than Formula One drivers at one point. But how was that experience?
Yeah, it's great. I mean, I was very lucky to. I did my operation in Qatar as well. So I managed to go to the Qatar F1 in Doha, which was amazing, where I got to meet David Beckham, which was probably the best day of my life. And then now I was lucky to go to the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix as well. And it was crazy. It's amazing how they do it. It feels like the race itself or the sport itself, there's not much really there, but the entertainment around the race is really where I feel that they get it right as a sport. Obviously everyone goes there. There's a lot of very big celebrities. So yeah, once again, very lucky to have walked. They call it the grid walk. So I saw Shreyas there as well. He was there with the Red Bull team. So, but there's some incredible Jason Statham, Chris Hemsworth. All of the Pogba was there, so it just feels like you walk there and you go, okay, I shouldn't really be walking with these guys. Yeah.
Wow, nice to hear you being starstruck for a bit there. Usually it's the other way around, but we have to speak a bit about the big tournament that just concluded in India. Faf, you were of course part of it in the commentary panel. You've observed a lot of the World Cups. I have to particularly ask you about South Africa's exit once again at the semi-final stage. I know this keeps coming in over and over again, but what is it about South Africa and the luck that always almost seems to run out at such tournaments?
Yeah, I think if you look at, first of all, you have to look at every World Cup and you have to go respect how hard it is to get into the semi-finals. I think that's the first thing that people don't really always appreciate. There's only 4 teams that get through. And there's a serious amount of quality in the World Cup. Teams that play there. A team like England not even making the semi-finals shows you that there's a lot of quality there. So to make the semi-finals, I think, is a huge achievement in the first place. And then when you get to the semi-finals, it's almost like the tournament starts. A new tournament begins all over. And I think that's where you look at teams like Australia and you go, they actually haven't been great over the last year in 50 over cricket. They haven't been amazing. Even the way they played during the build-up to the World Cup, they were a good team, but they weren't a great team. But when they get to the semi-finals and finals, there's a real belief within that team that they are just more experienced in big games than anyone else. And if you take South Africa on the other side of the spectrum, I thought they were incredible right through the World Cup. It's probably the best and most consistent South African team we've seen in a World Cup in terms of how they dominated some of the teams, similar to India. But yeah, the hurdle would just be that last step or two, which is the semi-finals and finals, and that's the confidence that just lies with the opposition. They're just more experienced in playing those moments. They know better how to deal with those big moments. So it's one of those things that I believe that when the Proteas eventually do get to their first final, but then also hopefully win a final, then it will be a very big break through the ceiling moment for South Africa. And then I believe after that, things will really start changing. But to break that mold and that thing that's always there, you're going to require a lot of things to fall your way. Luck, obviously in the past, it's been weather, injuries, all those things. But yeah, for this tournament, I feel like the two strongest teams in playing big moments would probably be India and Australia. And once again, Australia proved that in the final that they just have more in the tank when it comes to those big games because they've been there so many times.
You've won the crown of thorns in the past as South Africa captain. What would you say? What would you tell Themba Bavuma at this point? Another captain. It is disheartening. It can really be. It can really pull you down. What would you tell him at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I remember being in a similar position. I think you get back home and there's a lot of disappointment, a lot of anger, and some support as well from the true fans. I'd say true is probably the wrong word, but the optimistic fans. So you get all those different versions. So it feels, as a captain, you do feel like you wear the brunt of it, and that's how it should be. Highest trees always get the most wind. So that's generally your captain, your coach. So obviously, from a performance point of view, Themba was good as leading the side. In terms of runs, you would know that he was a little bit light on it. So there would be that pressure from people in the media and talking about stuff like that. But yeah, my advice to him is just the storm will pass. It's you always feel like the world's ending, but it actually doesn't end. Soon you play in the next series, and then people tend to forget. So then it's back to making sure that you perform at your best. As a captain, it's always really important that you're performing. For us as batters, that currency is runs.
I'm sure he'll. I mean, that would definitely. It'd be nice for him to hear and listen to Faf. But just switching focus a bit to Indian Premier League. Of course, everyone's going to be waiting to see you in action as well in India at that point with RCB. Excited for another edition. It was a good season. Not probably just the way you'd imagined, but excited to get back with Virat and everyone else.
Yeah, I mean, I was really enjoying last season. From a personal point of view, it's by far the best IPL season I've ever had, and there's been some. From a personal point of view, there's been some good ones, but this one, just in terms of how I felt like I evolved as a batter and the way that I played, really enjoyed that. So there's a challenge there to make sure that I can try and be at that level of performance again and that expectation, which is always a part of being at the top. And then from a team perspective, yeah, I thought we were excellent away from home. We played, we probably won about 80% of our games away from home, which is a difficult thing to do. But in saying that, we weren't great at Chinnaswamy. So the reflection after the season we had was how can we get better in our home conditions. And that's obviously the auction that happened right now, and some of the trades that's happened. Feel like we need to be brave in some areas where obviously lose out on some unbelievably good cricketers in letting go of Hasaranga and Harshal Patel especially. But the franchises felt like there needed to be a big purse of money that is, you go into the auction with trying to make sure you go into the next season with at least trying to rectify some of the areas that you felt like you needed to get stronger at. And that was definitely for us, was a middle order batsman. And obviously with, most of the quality Indian batsmen, generally people don't release them. So we tried a couple of trades for some domestic number 5s or number 6s, but there wasn't any luck in that. So the opportunity came with Chris Green, and he was probably at the top of our list for the auction, just because he fits the mold of what we were looking for, a guy that is a good enough all-rounder to bowl 4 overs, but doesn't always have to bowl 4 overs, but just good enough to bowl 4 overs. He's got pace, he's got bounce, and then from a batting perspective, he's probably up there as well in terms of the best all-rounders when it comes to number 5. He's young as well, so that's a great opportunity for the franchise to lock him in if he does well, obviously to retain him for the future. So, I thought that was a very good trade for the franchise.
Yes, it helped Mumbai Indians for sure, but hey, it's a win-win, so no complaints there. But Faf, I can ask this now because you've spent that one season with the Royal Challengers Bengaluru. You built a really solid relationship bond with Virat Kohli. We all saw that. Have you been in touch with him? Because we know the kind of person he is. He's always already planning for the next season. How has that panned out? And how is the sort of space that he's in currently?
Yeah, first of all, he had an incredible World Cup, didn't he? And I could almost predict that. You could just see the way that he was, the energy that he had before the tournament, the hunger for a World Cup at home. I think that things like that always plays a big part in the kind of player that you are, is how hungry you are. And Virat obviously shows that and leads that from the front always. So, really chuffed for him in the World Cup he had. He was incredible. And then, away from that, it's just been, he's always, we've got a really good relationship. So he's an important part of RCB and the think tank around it. So obviously there's a lot of hours that goes behind the scenes and planning and talking. And it's not always using up Virat's time for that, because he's playing so much. And I think the most important thing in the space that he is right now is just that balance of cricket, being fresh to bring his best, and then always getting that balance right with being at home with his family. That's really important for me as well, to make sure that you have that balance right. So including him when it was time to make some really big decisions, including him on the thinking that we had, asking his opinion on most of the stuff. And he obviously was aligned with everything regarding the thinking around releases, also creating some money to try and get the squad a bit stronger, and then also the trade of Cameron Green.
Right. Just a couple of questions and we'll let you go for sure, Faf. One is, and this we can ask you now because you've spent enough time with CSK and now you're already warming up with RCB, with the fans and in the dressing room. How different are the two franchises? Both are really big legacy franchises. How different has it been? Because we know you share a close bond with both of them now.
Yeah, it's difficult to explain that, really. I would say, I'm very grateful that I could spend 10 years with CSK. I felt like there's a real loyalty around the fans with CSK. Even when I wasn't there, it felt like I never left. So that loyalty is there, and there's a huge support base, obviously, for CSK and what they do. I've said it so many times, but I always will keep going back to it, that extreme gratitude for that franchise and also the fans. I do feel that love everywhere I go in the world still today. And then obviously moving away from that into the franchise of RCB and also the fans. Yeah, I feel there's a level of expectation as well from the RCB fans that they're so desperate for something of obviously a trophy. And I get that. So that actually makes me hungry for it as well. You know, you want to go somewhere where no one's gone before. So that's really given me a sense of purpose to try and give the fans what they want. But we know the IPL is not an easy competition to win, but it's certainly, yeah, you do feel with the fans that there's a real passion. And I think it's a similar way of describing the fans. You know, I think if you look at Chennai and obviously there's a relationship with MS Dhoni, there's that one guy that's always been there that the fans just, I mean, he's everything. And then you go the other side and there's Virat Kohli, who's always been there. And you probably can use the same example for Rohit at Mumbai Indians. So there's these 2 or 3 big players that the fans, I mean, the franchise really is about that player, isn't it? So it's very similar in that sense. But yeah, it's definitely a different feel to it. And both very lucky to be a part of.
And you're one of those very few rare non-Indian cricketers to have spent equally enough amount of time with both Virat and MSD at close quarters. They trust you so much. They share a deep bond with you. How different are they in the dressing room?
Yeah, very different. Once again, very, very lucky to have spent time with MS, and I think more so from a leadership perspective. Just grow up in that environment, if I could say that. You know, I started there when I was early on in my leadership journey. So I started and just with Fleming and Dhoni there, felt like, you know, I could just put the pieces of the puzzle together and where I wanted to go with my leadership. So extremely grateful for that, because I feel like that helped me a lot in terms of looking at MS and the things that he does well would be stuff that would be very different to the stuff that probably I do. But as a captain, it's always important to try and see what are things that other leaders do really well, and then see how you use your own DNA through your own style, and then just use a little bit of those things. So if I can fast forward now, you know, 10 years later from watching MS for so long, it would be the calmness is something that I really admired from him. And that's probably the thing that I felt I got right throughout my captaincy, but also still really important to me is to make sure that no matter how big the pressure is or how bad this game situation is, that you think with clarity and with calmness, so that the rest of the team sees that. So yeah, MS as a person is actually very quiet, very introverted, or you know, spends a lot of time almost by himself. But when you walk on the field, he's an extremely calm presence, and you as the team trust that we are in good hands because of him, and that's a really strong attribute. And then Virat on the other side, for me, always playing against him was absolutely in awe of how much energy he always had. Every single ball, whether it was a T20, a 50 over, or a test match, the level of energy, you just never ever see it drop down to like a 6 out of 10. It was always a 10 out of 10. And that intensity is very infectious. He plays a big supporting role for me, captaining RCB. I think it would be a much harder job without him, because he is so infectious in the way that he plays the game. So we always want to make sure that as captains, you want to get the best out of people in the way that we play the game. And Virat helps me a lot in that aspect, is that players that are on the same field as him see the level of energy and attitude he has, and they go, well, if Virat Kohli has that, then I have to do that myself as well. And he does that to me too, which is great. but I really enjoyed batting with him. I think that's really where, obviously not surprised by it, but I really enjoy that, the amount of energy that is out there when the two of us are batting. Yeah, you have so much fun. It feels like you're a kid in the backyard playing cricket, and you're just having fun.
Trust me, Faf, I think the fans love it the most, and undeniably so. But just to sort of wrap this interview up, I know you're rushing somewhere too. What are you most looking forward to this year? What are your personal goals as well? Because we know Joburg is also coming up. That's another franchise that's close to your heart. What are you looking forward to most this year?
Winning trophies. That's the only reason why I'm still doing what I'm doing. I'm still very motivated at my age to keep trying to win trophies. So with Joburg Super Kings, we made it to the semi-finals last year. Want to win that. Want to win that competition, and then obviously in the IPL, how good would that be if RCB wins their first IPL trophy? So that gives me great motivation.
Awesome, Faf. I know a lot of fans are rooting for you there and can't wait to see you back on Indian shores soon. Thank you so much for giving your time here to Firstpost. We've been privileged. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, we look forward to hopefully a CSK and RCB final.
Wouldn't that be lovely? And I will be torn as well, but yes, why not?
Yeah, all right. Thank you for having me.
Thanks, Faf.